Jake had no clue that his entire life was about to fall apart. That night, he was asked to join an unexpected gathering honoring a buddy's advancement at work. Sarah, his spouse, had left earlier to assist with preparations, a task she loved due to her talent for creating dramatic reveals. Jake didn't think twice when she urged him to show up a bit later for a striking arrival. He had full faith in her and never imagined the evening would turn out to be anything other than happy. But right from the instant he entered the doorway, an odd sensation crept in. The celebratory vibe, brimming with typical chuckles, tunes, and animated chats, felt empty to him. All attendees appeared polished, beverages poured endlessly, and grins were everywhere, but one key element was absent: Sarah. Initially, he figured she was occupied in the background, maybe mixing cocktails or mingling with visitors. Yet as he wandered around the home, looking for her, a growing discomfort lodged in his heart. Her non-appearance grew more obvious with each ticking second. Nobody else appeared to spot anything amiss, but Jake couldn't dismiss the heaviness growing in his stomach. Then a lady he didn't know came near. Her expression mixed stress and pity. She stayed quiet at first, as if unsure about voicing her thoughts. At last, in a tone so quiet it scarcely cut through the tunes, she murmured, "You ought to look in the spare bedroom on the upper floor." Those phrases sent a shiver through him. They seemed harmless at face value, but her delivery triggered warning signals in his head. Nevertheless, he couldn't ignore the urge to follow through. His pulse raced wildly as he climbed the steps. There was no rational basis for his rising fear, yet it seemed like he was heading toward an unavoidable shift. Positioned before the spare room entrance, he paused. He drew in a long breath, steadying himself, uncertain of what lay ahead but sure it would sting. With shaky fingers, he swung the door wide. And there she stood, Sarah, the partner he had constructed his existence alongside, wrapped in the hold of a different guy. Their closeness was clearly personal, and the shock in their gazes upon noticing him verified it all. Everything froze. Jake didn't shout. He didn't blame. He just pivoted and departed, every stride laden with shock and torment. Outdoors, the breeze struck him sharply, chilly, biting, and confusing. But no force could erase the scenes etched into his thoughts. The disloyalty, the agony, the abrupt ruin of the reality he believed was solid. The remainder of the evening blurred by. He carried on mechanically, there only physically. When Sarah finally came back to their place, Jake remained mute. He had no interest in justifications. The quietness separating them spoke volumes beyond any argument. The following day, Sarah demanded a discussion. Hesitantly, Jake consented. They positioned themselves at the dining spot, formerly a haven of comfort and joint recollections. Now it seemed alien, chilly, and thick with strain. Sarah's fingers shook. Her gaze brimmed with remorse. Jake faced her stiff and wordless, his features blank but his stare keen and remote. "I don't know where to start," Sarah uttered, her tone hardly louder than a breath. "But I have to attempt. Please allow me to speak." He offered no reply, save for raising his mug, sipping deliberately and placing it back with a firm clink. His eyes stayed fixed on her. "Speak," he replied evenly, "but realize this. I doubt any words from you will alter my emotions." Her speech wavered as she expressed sorrow, feeling adrift, emotional gaps. She insisted it was an instance of frailty, that she continued to care for him, that she didn't wish to part ways. Jake released a scornful chuckle, his expression twisted in skepticism. "Care," he echoed, the term loaded with sarcasm. "You claim to care for me, yet you were involved with another secretly. If that's care, count me out." Sarah's sobs flowed unchecked now. She confessed her error, mentioned she sensed they were growing distant. She hadn't figured out how to mend it. And in a haze of uncertainty, she committed the gravest mistake ever. Jake heard her out, but the hurt within was too fresh, too profound. He gazed at her, seeking the lady he once thought he could rely on completely. All he perceived was an outsider. He faced a choice, to attempt pardon or to release it entirely. The quiet lingered, extended and burdensome as he grappled with that dilemma. Sarah, frantic, bent ahead, her palms gripped firm as if in plea. "Jake," she voiced, struggling to articulate amid her cries. "I realize I can't reverse my actions, but I think we can repair this as a team. Please offer us another opportunity. Please." Jake rose abruptly, his frame rigid with feeling. He paced a short distance, gazing outward as if attempting to comprehend the destruction caused by her decisions. Then he faced her once more, his gaze fierce with a blend of grief and fury. "You know what stings the deepest," he declared, his tone breaking with emotion. "It's not merely that you strayed. It's that you met my gaze, resided in the same home, slept beside me, and yet opted to deceive me. That's what I can't pardon. And with those statements, the burden of her deeds lingered in the atmosphere, resulting in mere quietness between them. How could you deceive me? Jake's tone quivered, each phrase landing like a strike, slicing into the delicate remains of their bond. Trust had formerly anchored their union, and now it was demolished. Without it, all else had fallen apart. There's nothing remaining, Sarah. We can't reconstruct from here. Sarah remained seated opposite, sobs cascading down her face, mute evidence of the remorse pressing on her soul. Her spirit throbbed with each term Jake delivered, every sound a cue of how profoundly she had wounded him. She peered into his gaze, hunting urgently for the guy she adored, wishing for a spark of mercy. But all she encountered was a barrier she couldn't breach, as his spirit was toughened by disloyalty. For a fleeting moment, Jake sensed a faint trace of empathy awaken within. He nearly extended a hand, nearly yielded, but the gravity of her act swiftly doused any kindness. His features stiffened once more as he inclined forward, the anguish in his tone unpolished and uneven. "I don't even recognize my feelings toward you now," he murmured in a tone scarcely audible. "Affection, resentment, letdown, it's all intertwined. But one aspect is evident: I can't rely on you, and without that, nothing else counts." Sarah could scarcely inhale beneath the pressure of those phrases. The expression in Jake's gaze conveyed what she dreaded utmost, that the individual who once cherished her fully was fading, and she understood she was at fault. Jake rose, incapable of further words. At the threshold, he halted and pivoted, weariness pulling at his tone. "Provide me space," he stated, manner conclusive. "But don't anticipate wonders." The entrance latched closed after him, and the ensuing hush was overwhelming. Solitary, Jake positioned at the dining spot, an untouched chilled beverage before him, an emblem of the existence they formerly shared. All appeared remote, warped, akin to a vision dissolving. Her cries and regrets resounded in his thoughts, but they couldn't wipe away what occurred. Her disloyalty had created a scar so intense, it seemed eternal. His mind whirled, brimming with inquiries without solutions. What led them here? How had they progressed so much just to conclude thus? Regardless of how often he hunted for a rationale, it invariably returned to the decision Sarah took, the one that altered all. In the ensuing days, Jake navigated existence in a haze. He couldn't reason sharply. The suffering lingered constantly, lurking like an unyielding shade. He recognized he couldn't remain ensnared in this sorrow indefinitely. A shift was necessary. He needed to determine whether to suppress it and proceed, or escape the ruins and commence anew by himself. One dawn, following weeks of restless evenings and ceaseless introspection, Jake positioned before his reflection. The figure gazing back seemed unfamiliar, fatigued, drained, and vacant. His gaze lacked its spark. This wasn't the person who had once chuckled alongside Sarah, envisioned with her, cherished her without limits. This was an individual emptied by deceit, but an inner force awakened. He comprehended for the initial occasion in ages that he retained an option. He didn't need to remain shattered. He could recover his essence. "I can't persist like this," he murmured. The phrases suspended in the calm atmosphere, straightforward yet potent. "I can't permit this to ruin me." He grasped then what was required. He must confront Sarah once more, not to mend, but to conclude. They sat anew at the dining spot, the one that formerly welcomed mirth and schemes for tomorrow. Now it was frigid, its coziness vanished long ago. The gravity of closure enveloped them like a dense mist. Jake's tone was firm, yet infused with the serenity that emerges solely after perpetual chaos. "Sarah," he articulated, "I've had moments to reflect on all of it, what we represented, what we've become. I attempted to envision a path ahead, but honestly I can't persist in a partnership devoid of reliability. And we've forfeited that. It's absent." Sarah's gaze brimmed with sobs once more, and briefly she appeared poised to implore him, request one additional shot. But as he continued, she perceived the reality in his demeanor. Her optimism faded into grief. "I get it," she breathed, almost inaudible. "I realize I've forfeited you. I realize I can't remedy this." Jake's core tightened, but he held firm. He still harbored affection for her in some remote, broken manner. But it fell short, not any longer. "I wish circumstances differed," he murmured gently. "But they don't. I hope you discover joy. Sincerely." And with those expressions, their tale concluded. The separation proceeded swiftly, discreetly. There were no heated disputes or legal spectacles. Sarah departed, and Jake lingered in the residence that now resonated with emptiness. The barriers no longer soothed. They closed in, cues of all that was gone. Time elapsed. Jake gradually started re-entering existence. He grinned once more, discovered instances of delight with companions, and commenced reconstruction. But the evenings remained the toughest. In the shadows, when all was still, recollections of Sarah emerged like specters. Her appearance, her sound, her deceit, they lingered to torment him. Nonetheless, Jake never questioned his choice. He had selected to preserve himself, to relinquish what was shattering him. And that sufficed. One serene midday, strolling solo under a cloudy heavens, Jake uttered softly, as if aiming to verbalize his spirit toward recovery. Existence continues, and so shall I. It wasn't the conclusion he desired, but perhaps, just perhaps, it marked the start of something fresh. A tomorrow no longer defined by suffering but by potential.